Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Stephen, here with you with this week's 10-minute Torah. As always, thank you for joining me, and certainly appreciate all your questions and people asking me for information, people wanting rabbinical advice, and I do my best to accommodate you. And as you know, my door is always open. Of course, sometimes I'm sleeping and I'm not here, but you get the message. There's always a text or a phone call or an email away. So, anyway, happy Shavuot. Hope you enjoyed the holiday. Shavuot is one of the three pilgrimage festivals. And unfortunately, it doesn't get its due because it is a very important holiday. But if you ask most Jews, what do you observe as far as the pilgrimage festivals, or in Hebrew, Shalosh Raglayim, the 3-foot holidays, you'll get Passover, very popular. We have our 7-8 days of the special diet, not eating any chametz, any raised leavened products. And then we have Sukkot in the fall, right after Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, considered to be the Jewish Thanksgiving, and we are giving Thanksgiving. We build those little huts. We certainly love building ours and hanging out in it for a time, and eating in there, decorating it with all the various plants and fruits, and of course you're supposed to use gourds, which are watermelon, squash, things like that to decorate it. So Shavuot is one of the three pilgrimage festivals. So called because back in the land of Israel/Judea, those were the 3 times of the year that the Israelites would gather together, and they travel to the temple, and there'd be festivities, there'd be offerings, and they'd study a little bit of Torah, and it was just a very special time when everybody would come together, et cetera, et cetera. So Shavuot commemorates the giving of the Torah. And as with a lot of the major Jewish holidays, there's also an agricultural component of it, because there is the offering of the first fruits of the first grain offering, which is the barley. And what we've done is we've planted in the spring. We've counted down the 49 days of the Omer. Omer is a unit of measure to measure the sheaves of barley. Yes, bringing in the sheaves, that's where that comes from. And we've counted down 49 days on the 50th day of Shavuot. So Shavuot is unique among the Jewish holidays, where there isn't really a designated day. Now, if you ask somebody when it is, they'll say, well, it's the 5th or the 6th of the month of Sivan, which is true, but it's not like, okay, it's the 5th or 6th of Sivan, it's Shavuot. No, it's the 50th day of the counting of the Omer, so that makes it Shavuot. So it's really how it's reckoned, not necessarily what day it falls on, and that's kind of how we figure it out. So it's also the day when we eat a lot of dairy products. You can have milk, you can have, yogurt, milkshakes, things like that. Cheesecake, enjoy. New York cheesecake is the best. Why is New York the best? Well, of course, it's because of the water, but that's another issue. So let's talk about this week's portion, the Parashat Naso. It's the second portion in the book of Numbers, or Bamidbar, wilderness. And it is the longest portion of the Torah. Why then, you might ask, are the different portions, some portions longer, some portions shorter? I think the last 2 in Leviticus might be the shortest, Bahar and Bechukotai. Typically, on a non-leap year, they're read together, but they're kind of short. But why are the portions of different sizes? Why not just take the whole Torah and say, okay, we need 54 portions. We'll put 2 together whenever we need to, when there's not a leap year, but we need the 54 portions for the years that are leap years. Let's just divide it into 54 and that's it. Well, back when they were, canonizing the Torah after the destruction of the Second Temple, and they were deciding how we were going to read it, they divided it up, and they did their best to divide it according to topics and subjects. Now, Naso, because, and that's how they came up with the various divisions and the verses, et cetera, using 7 as the number of completion, so there would be 7 aliyot, plus your maftir, and then your haftorah later on, as it came to be the extra portion we were reading from the prophets. So Naso, again, being the longest portion, has a lot going on in it. It could have very easily been 2 or 3 portions dividing it out, but there's a lot going on. The first, it opens up with the various tasks of the last 2 Levite tribes. We talked about the Kohathites and the previous portion of the Bar. Now it's the Merarites and the Gershonites, and what part of the Mishkan they're carrying and carting away, and a couple of them are, guards. Then it talks about 2 very interesting topics. One is, the Sotah, which is the wayward wife, and also the Nazirite. So the Sotah, this is a husband who suspects a wife of being unfaithful because she was seen in the company of either another man who is not him, not her husband. So there's the thing where they take the water, they put dirt from the bottom of the tabernacle, they mix in a certain parchment that contains the name of God, and this is the only time when God allows his or her, if you prefer, name to be desecrated, because in order to keep the family together. And the woman drinks these, what they call bitter waters. It's the water of bitterness, not because the waters taste bitter, but it's because of the bitterness of the fact that the husband suspects the wife of being an adulteress or being unfaithful. She drinks it. If everything's fine, great. If her stomach distends, the thigh collapses, which is a euphemism for her sexual organs, then she is guilty of adultery, and the penalty is death. It is the only also supernatural, metaphysical occurrence that's really condoned in the Torah, because everything else really is based on reality, but this is an exception. The next part is the Nazarite. So Nazarite, the Nazir, comes from the word Nazar, which means to separate. And what a Nazarite does, you take the vow. If you feel like 613 commandments aren't enough for you, you need a few more because you haven't really been doing what you're supposed to do. And as I've just kind of described it, there are 2 camps. One camp says, wow, you want to be more holy, you want to be more righteous. Another camp says, come on, you've got 613, you need more. But the idea is that somebody doesn't feel like they were paying attention or on the right path. They weren't really focusing on Torah. They were focusing maybe on material things. So what they're going to do is they're going to separate themselves. And they're going to take a vow of the Nazarite. So the minimum time is 30 days for a temporary Nazarite, or it could be longer. You can renew the vow. In the case of, yes, Samson, it was a lifelong commitment. And the Nazarite does not cut his or her hair for that period of time. They do not drink wine or any other alcoholic beverage, or even fruit of the vine. They don't do grapes, for example. And they have to avoid any type of, any type of corpse. They could not attend a funeral. They can't go near a cemetery. So it's a heightened level of holiness for the Nazarite. So people say, why the specifics? Because ostensibly a person who was becoming a Nazarite maybe has engaged in too much alcohol. And because they engaged in too much alcohol, they're partying too much, they're having fun, they're just neglecting their Judaic duties or their commandments, and hence, like, we're going to go on kind of a forced fast, if you will. We're going to kind of take the oath, if you will, for those of you who remember the early days of AA. And we're going to avoid alcohol. We're going to pay attention to our commitment to Judaism rather than our commitment to partying. So that's part of the idea of the Nazarite. Finally, in this portion, we have the dedication of the tabernacle. We have the situation where each day for 12 days, each one of the tribes, represented by the prince or the head of that tribe, brought offerings, and each one of them brought the same offering. Now, if you go to the Orthodox, they say, wow, isn't it amazing that they all consider bringing the same thing, same amount of silver, same amount of gold, same number of animals, etc., for the upkeep of the temple, because maintaining the temple got pretty expensive. Or in the conservative version, which is a more down-to-earth version, if you will, it's just that they all kind of arranged they're going to bring the same thing. So one tribe didn't bring more or less than another tribe. They were all kind of equal. And the final issue of that is that these are the Torah readings that we read also for Hanukkah. Because remember, the word Hanukkah means dedication. And that's what this was. It was a dedication to the temple. This was the supplies to get the Mishkan off the ground so that the Levites and the Kohanim could perform their functions, and they had the materials with which to do that. So a lot of information. We will still be reading the triennial cycle. We will not be spending an hour and a half reading the full portion. Calm down, it's okay. But we will be doing, but it will be a good portion. The Aliyot will be a little bit longer because it is a longer portion. But hey, still come. We got some great Torah readers here, if I do say so myself. So thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you in services. And as always, Shabbat Shalom.